Welcome to Linux Intermediate. My name is Mansi Thakar and I am the instructor for this course. Few housekeeping things before we get started. First is discussion boards. Please utilize these discussion boards to ask questions, interact with your fellow cohorts, as well as me, your instructor. This way we can kind of provide an open learning space for everyone in the cohort. Our second thing is that this is again going to be a follow along with me, so I would highly recommend for you to fire up your terminal and do these commands as I'm doing them as well, and that way you can kind of get that hands-on practical experience doing it. I can't emphasize this enough that cybersecurity, as much as it's the theoretical knowledge is important, it is only really useful once you have the practical implementation of it. Okay, well, with that being said, in our Linux fundamentals, we spoke about the top 5 commands, right? Like, there were the important commands. In intermediate, we're going to see how can I combine these commands together, right? Using logical operators. So our first things first, I'm going to open up the terminal. I have my Finder just to kind of showcase what I'm doing, right? And here is this. So I'm going to use a ls, pwd, and who am I, right? These semicolons is just a concatenation. It means that I want to do all three. It doesn't matter, one failed, one didn't fail, doesn't matter, just do all three. So when I click enter, this is what happens. It tells me the ls, so it lists out everything that's there in my desktop, right? It tells me where I am, so this is my pwd, and it tells me who am I, who's the user, and this is my user, right? Now let's say I want to do 2 commands, and I only want the second one to execute if the first one is there. So for that, I would use something like this. I'm going to use the and operator to make this. So this again is a logical operator that says if the first command is successful, then do the second command, right? So here it's saying in my desktop, make a directory or make a folder called my folder, and I'm going to cd into my folder. So cd into my folder. So you see that my folder was created, and now you also see that I'm inside my folder, right? How would I double or triple confirm? I'm going to use the pwd, and that tells you under desktop, I'm in my folder. So that's how you know that it worked, right? So it's the first. Again, the logical operator here is the 2 ands, and what that does is it's going to make the folder and it's going to put me inside that folder. So that's what that did. Now let's say I want to do the opposite, which means if my first command failed, then do my second command, right? So this is if my first command is successful, then do my second, right? Now we want to say, no, if it fails, then do it. So how would I do that? I would use the double pipeline for this. So I'm going to say, so actually, I'm going to go back to one thing above. So again, cd and then the 2 dots allow me to move up 1 in the directory. So now I'm back at desktop level, and I'm going to say this. I'm going to say make directory my folder, and in case that is not successful, put me inside my folder, right? So what do we think? Quick poll. Do we think this is actually going to happen? On the desktop level, which is here, I'm saying create a directory, create a folder called my folder, which already exists. So theoretically, this should not work, right? And so if it fails, then it's going to cd me into my folder. Let's check. So look at that. It failed because it said the file already exists, which it does. However, it still put me under my folder. So I'm going to quickly do pwd to show you. And yes, see, under desktop, I am now under my folder. So that's the quick intro for intermediates. We're going to take a quick break and come back after this. But to recap, there were 3 logical operators that we learned, right? One is the semicolon. And the semicolon does what? It's saying, hey, do these 3 actions at once, boom. And that's what it does, right? If I want to do it so that do one action, and only if that first action is successful, do the second action, we're going to use the double and operators. And if you want to find something like, hey, do one action, and only if that fails, right? Only if you cannot do that first action, do that second option, and that's where we use the double pipeline. Thanks so much. See you guys soon.